bet you wish you could fly this thing, huh? Well, I'm sorry you can't because you don't have any thumbs. Hey, welcome back everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed my little co-pilot buddy there. She does a terrible job reading the checklist, and she has a hard time with the toggle switches, but it's fun to fly with her because she likes to curl up in your lap, and that little fur ball is cute as can be. So with this video, I wanted to showcase my flight sim gear because I've had a few requests for that in the comments. So figured I got my flight sim stuff in the other room in a good state, but I wanted to show this machine first because this is the machine that got it started for me as far as the YouTube channel going. I have two very specific people to thank. I'll get to that in a moment. But I also want to dispel the notion that you need a high horsepower machine in order to enjoy flight sim. Is it nice? Yes. But you don't need a super strong computer in order to enjoy DCS. This machine behind me, which I've got on screen now, the processor is an old AMD FX 8120 paired with an nVidia GTX 980 graphics card. The processor was designed back in 2011. The 980 somewhere around 2014, if I'm not mistaken. That is what got me started in DCS, and as well as starting both the YouTube channel and doing the DCS videos. This is the machine. If you saw my stuff that I did for DCS in last year in 2022, this is the machine that I did a lot of that on. It's coupled with a 1080p screen. It runs pretty smooth. Some maps in DCS I did struggle with, namely Syria, because that is a very RAM intensive map. Overall, single player, multiplayer, it's very smooth, and on top of that, was able to record video at the same exact time. So I haven't tried this in the DCS multiplayer. That came out this year, and I had already moved on to my current build. My youngest son enjoys this machine, so it still lives on. And I had coupled with this a set of Saitek joystick and throttle, which again, this setup served me, the joysticks I've had since about 2005, so these got an awful lot of mileage on them, but again, got a lot of enjoyment out of this, especially in DCS. I got two people I want to thank specifically, and I'll just use their gamer names, Wingnut and Pirate QM. Without their help, this was back when I was active duty, Wingnut specifically gave me a power supply, a motherboard, and the graphics card to get me going. And then Pirate QM helped with some other components and some help building this particular machine. And without them, I would not have been able to get into this as deep as I have, and also start the YouTube channel. A lot of my earlier videos were done on this particular machine as far as both the video editing and the creation with the DCS videos. So a big thank you to you two guys. I would not have been able to get to this point without that help. So thank you guys. Alright, so now here we are in my office with my current machine, and this is the one I built this past Christmas. And this, to me, this thing's a hot rod. The difference in rendering videos, especially between my old machine and this one, good example is if I had whenever I did the videos at the hangar using, well, this camera, the GoPro, shooting in 4K, a 12-minute video on the other machine would have taken about an hour and 40 minutes to render into one file for upload to YouTube. This machine would, with approximately the same length video, I'm looking at about 7 to 8 minutes of render time. This thing is blazing fast in that regard, and I'll get to why that is here. So again, I built this at Christmas. This was a build that I had been planning out. Had a little help with the design, thanks to one of my squadron mates, Cobra. Thank you for the help and the input on this particular rig. I had a list of all the components that I wanted, and I just waited patiently and just got it piece by piece as I saw stuff come on sale, or Black Friday and all the Christmas time deals last year. I was able to get a pretty good deal on this particular machine. The processor in this particular machine is an AMD 7900X Ryzen 9. It's a 12-core, 24-thread processor coupled with an nVidia 3090 Ti. At the time that I built this, I saw that the 4090 had just come out, and I briefly entertained the idea of getting one of those. I thought better of it, and I went with a 3090. 3090 was a far better price, and from what I've seen, the 4090s are still having a little bit of trouble with melting their power plugs. Not all of them, but some of them are still. So, kind of glad I avoided that. And like I said, the 4090 was about double the cost of a 3090 Ti. So, didn't want to go that route. Main processor is water cooled. I got a water cooler there at the top, and it's got 64 gigs of DDR5. As far as the hardware goes, let me show you that. Alright, so if you saw a community post a few months ago showing the box for this is a chair that Mrs. Diesel Thunder surprised me with. That was a very heavy box, and that was a very nice surprise. Thank you, Mrs. Diesel Thunder. I'm going to do my own video review on this chair in particular. There's a lot that I want to cover for that I don't want to put into this video. But one of the bigger things I had to wait for was the mount for the joystick. The factory mount for this thing has it right about here, right above the seat notch, which with my joystick on an extension, it put that thing way too high. It was about chest level for me, which I didn't like that at all. So I ended up taking the mounts to a local machine shop. They cut and welded it and got me that. For the stick itself, this is a Thrustmaster Warthog. I ran that stock for a little while, and that was before I got the extension pipe for it. This is one of the sticks that can take an extension. Thrustmaster, I think VKB, Virpil, and I think WinWing all accommodate joystick extensions. There's various ones that you can get. Ones with like more of a gooseneck S-curve versus a straight pipe. This has been an awesome addition, and when I got that, I ended up putting this stick on a footstool underneath my desk that where the screen was, and I was running it that way for a while. So that's a Thrustmaster Warthog. It's been a great stick for me. Absolutely love this thing. I bought that as a set with the throttles back there, and I love them. Especially since it's the twin engine. Really comes in handy for the Warbird. So now I have a throttle and a prop control. Alright. So this is something else. This is something else my wife surprised me with, I think 2 Christmases ago. She found the Thrustmaster Hornet grip that is very much compatible with the Warthog throttle, the Warthog stick base. It has the same exact connector on the bottom, and this is the stick that you would find in an F-18 Hornet. If I'm not mistaken, this is the front seat stick in a F-15 Strike Eagle, which has been recently released in DCS. And also, this is the stick that's in an AV-8B Harrier. The stick that came with mine was the Warthog, which is also the same stick used in the F-16 Viper. Both of these are interchangeable, and the nice thing is with this extension that I can, the grip itself does not have to be straight with the stick base. I can actually clock the stick so that it actually matches more of my hand angle as I'm sitting here flying. This has been a wonderful addition. This is what replaced that Saitek that you saw on my old computer, and I have especially with the extension, the level of precision and the range of movement that you get with the extension has been real nice. Now the Warthog does not come with it does not have a twist grip, so you don't have any rudder control. All right, so moving on to the rudders, I have a set of Saitek Pro Flight Rudder pedals. They run pretty good. They're as far as the pedals go, they're fairly inexpensive, so it's mostly why I went with them at the time. And they have both the toe brake access on each feet, and they function as a rudder, and they've been pretty good to me. Now, a lot of this hardware runs through a powered USB hub, which I have here on this freestanding mount for my screen, and this gives me all the extra ports that I need and has its own auxiliary power to feed power to this so that it's not all being strained on one USB port on the computer. So, and that's nice because it also kind of functions as an extension to get everything over to here, even though the computer is up here. That's the microphone that I tend to use for all my DCS videos. It does a pretty good job. Pretty basic keyboard that I have here. I have a better keyboard over at the desk. Now, as far as my screen goes, this has been another one of those little happy coincidences. So when I built the seat, I wanted to push this setup off on its own. I didn't want it underneath the desk anymore because I wanted my office chair back underneath my desk instead of having to slide this around on the carpet. This is fairly heavy. It does slide, but it doesn't slide very well, and it kind of a pain in the butt to move it around as I needed to, and it does take up some room. But it sits underneath this screen, which isn't actually a monitor, and this is actually just a 4K TV, but it does 120 hertz refresh rate, and that does it by design. A lot of TVs only do 60 hertz refresh. Some of them will do 120 hertz, but they kind of cheat in order to do it, and that's why it makes some of the you got to be careful if you're looking for a TV and you want 120 hertz. You got to really do your homework on this, because some of them kind of fake having 120 hertz. And if you're not familiar with that, it's just the number of times per second that the screen itself will draw the image. So right now, 120 times per second, this P47 is getting drawn on this screen, and this one does it natively. It actually even does 144 hertz. That's meant for like PlayStations and Xboxes. It has a specific HDMI port on the back to do it. Sounds like one of the dogs is going nuts downstairs. Not my co-pilot, it's our other dog. Some of these screens, in order to fake having 120 hertz, it'll draw the image 60 times per second, but in between those frames, it'll put a completely blank screen. So it'll draw an image, and on the very next frame, it'll be a blank screen, and then the next frame will be the image again. So it's doing 60 images per second, but faking it by putting a blank image in between. So technically, it's drawing 120 frames a second, but it's not drawing your image 120 times a second. Other TVs use some adaptive processing. So like if an object is moving across the screen, it'll predict where the next frame is going to be drawn. That leads to some sort of ghosting issues from what I've come to understand. So having a TV as a monitor, you want a high refresh rate. That does it by design. Also, this particular screen features a gaming mode, and what that does for most TVs is it will not do any image processing on its own. It'll basically put it into a mode where it'll take the signal that it gets down the HDMI wire and just draw it. So you have a much lower latency and a higher response time on the screen itself. Because in most computers' cases, all your processing is being done by the graphics card already. There's no need for the TV to do it on its own. So this is something I've been eyeballing for a little while. My wife was actually helping me with this. She found this. She found a good deal. It was also on sale, and I had a little bit of overtime going that particular week when I bought that. So I was able to get this and set it up, and that was the final piece of the puzzle to get my flight sim set up off on its own and freestanding. I didn't have to move things around the office and put it underneath my desk. This has just been a slow, an incremental process over the years. I got the Warthog a couple years ago. The rudder pedals came shortly after that. That came last year. That came recently. And it's just slowly over time I've kind of built up and adapted this. The only other question I have, like on monitors, like you see my normal monitor, this is that ultra wide. monitors seem to be going wider, but not taller. I don't know why that is. Someone probably knows, but I certainly don't. I would love the image to be a little bit taller. This is kind of why I went this direction with looking for a TV screen, because it's definitely got adequate width, and I do have a lot more vertical. So now that I have this, and this is, like I said, it's 4K, my DCS videos are going to be in 4K, just like it is with this particular camera right here. Last thing I want to touch on is head tracking. So right here on my headset, and you got, oh, I'm actually seeing these glow. You got these 3 little LED lights. This is a track IR setup. So that attaches to my head, and those move around as I move my head and get picked up by that camera up there that's staring in my general direction when I'm sitting in the seat, and it tracks my head and does all that fun stuff. So the track IR, the head tracking, I do recommend that if you're into flight sim, even casually. That setup did not cost a lot. Track IR isn't terribly expensive, and it works pretty well out of the box, and gets you that head tracking that you can look around the screen and it follows your movements. Unlike using like a hat on a joystick, which is kind of clunky and awkward. I mean, I made it work for a while until I added this. This was a very nice addition to the sim setup. That is like a nice half step in between staying in screen mode or going full on VR with a VR headset. Which, if you're trying to get into VR, you definitely need something with enough horsepower in order to render that, because on a VR setup, if you're not familiar, this is having to draw 2 separate screens at the same exact time for each eye, and that does take a bit of video power. So that's you need something strong in order to run VR in most cases. Now, one of the last things I want to show is this tablet and app that you see on the screen right now. This is actually something I commandeered from one of my kids a few years ago. It's an older Amazon Kindle, I think. And what this is doing right now, it's running an app called DCS UFC. And what that does is this, actually using my network, talks to the aircraft within DCS. So this talks to the computer, and what you see here is the actual upfront controller. So I can actually do upfront controller stuff with this touchpad, just like I was actually touching the buttons. And like, for example, if I want to go see what my IFF is up to, I just tap that button, and you can see it changes on screen, and it changes here on this screen, and I can interact with it that way. Same thing with data link and whatever. And it does more than just the upfront controllers. Like, if I want to, it interacts. If I want to change my radio channel, I can do that. So let's say 305. There, enter. Boom, there we go. I got the radio changed. And it has all sorts of other panels. Like, there's the IFEI panel for the engine that shows my fuel, engine data, some pylon stuff. Different screens. There's a lot of switch panels. I believe that's on the right console. Yeah, both of these are on the right console. And you can tap and click all the switches. You can drag your finger and turn the knobs. Let's see. For example, so looking right there at my instrument panel light knob, I'm doing the same thing here. And you can see this is an extremely handy app, and I like it. And this isn't this will run on any Android-based tablet. It won't run on an iPad, as far as I'm aware, which, conveniently enough, an Amazon Kindle is based on the Android platform, and it does not need a powerful tablet in order to do this. Like I said, this is an old Kindle, and this thing runs it perfectly fine. It's got plenty of power in order to run this, and this actually has multiple aircraft. So yeah, A-10, the Harrier, the Tomcat, and it actually has both seats. I got the cat panel for the Rio is in the F-14, the Viper, the Hornet, the F-5. Those of you that enjoyed the JF-17 Thunder, you got the KA-50 Black Shark, the M2000, the Viggen, and some of the mod aircraft like the T-45 Goshawk, that's in here, and also has some panels for the FC-3, the Flaming Cliffs 3 aircraft. So this is a pretty cool mod. It's not terribly expensive, especially if you have an old Android tablet sitting around. This is an inexpensive way of getting an upfront controller for various aircraft within DCS. Really enjoy this. This is a really cool thing that I came across. I'll leave a link to this in the video description if you guys are interested. Pretty darn handy. I like it. So now that this is off by itself and away from the desk, what I'm able to do now, and you guys can look forward to this in future videos. So my next Warbird guide is going to be on an Axis fighter. It is going to be the BF-109, the K4 that DCS has. And when I do that one, I'll be able to put the GoPro on a tripod and be able to capture all of my stick and what my feet are doing. That way you guys get a better idea of what's involved with controlling those warbirds, especially when it comes to like takeoffs and landings. So I'm looking forward to being able to do that for you guys, to help you guys out, especially if you're new to the warbirds. That is my sim setup, everybody. Hope you guys like that. Hope that gives you a good idea of some of the fun things you can do in this world of flight sim. And I'm looking forward to when I can definitely tie together the work we do up at the hangar to the simulator world. Keep in mind, the DCS F4E model is under development and should be out this year, if I'm not mistaken. So really looking forward to that, and I really can't wait to tie that together with this and help showcase that. So with that, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time. I'll see you guys this weekend when we go to the hangar. Nice. That's a good run there. Alright, let's move on to the next objective.